Steve.
Yes.
Guess what we're talking about today?
I wouldn't have a clue. I don't prepare for these things.
No, that's also very true. Controversial topic, Steve.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
We're talking all things vegan diet.
Oh, vegans.
So we've done carnivore.
Yep.
Good, bad and ugly.
Yep.
So we're going to do the same with the vegan diet.
Are we going to do the warts and all?
We're going to do warts and all. There's some ugly in there and there's some good in there. So you've got to hang out to find out what's what.
Let's get into it. Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Nicole and Steve. And today,
yes,
we're doing veganism, not vegetarian.
Vegan, the vegan diet, because we've done the carnivore diet.
Yep.
That's out now.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, well, let's do the vegan diet. We don't want to be biased, Steve.
Yep.
So we're going to talk all about the vegan diet, the good, the bad. I don't think there's too much ugly. Really? So
I've got a bit of ugly, but nothing too ugly. But there's good too.
There's a lot of good.
It's like the carnivore diet. If you listen to that one, it's got some good, bad, and we've got a lot of data here. Like more, even when I came in, I get the pile of papers.
The pile of papers is massive, and we also have a very large paper, which Matt's going to hate because I'm going to have to flip the pages, but it's huge. So anyone that's watching, if the vision gets blotted out,
let's just go really 101. There's a paper there, 101. But we're talking about the vegan diet. What's the difference between a vegetarian and a vegan diet? Just for people who are playing along at home.
So vegan diet is purely no animal products whatsoever.
Right.
Whereas vegetarian, they may have eggs, dairy. Vegetarian's more no meats.
Yep.
Animal meats is really the difference there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So vegan diets, let's get a bit into the weeds here. What about honey?
Yeah, so this is interesting, and I have to say I have had this conversation with people on vegan diets before that won't touch honey,
right?
Because it's from an animal, I guess. But my argument is, and I might get shot down for this as well.
It's only 1 minute in. We're going to be controversial already.
No, we're going to, you know what? Like we said with the carnivore diet, we're going to get people that are against us what we say, but we're just giving it. But back to the honey.
Yep.
So bees are becoming, endangered.
Yeah, some of them are.
And if we lose our bees, we lose a lot of our food because, they pollinate.
Yep.
So my argument is that people on plant-based diets or vegans won't have honey, but if you support the production of honey, there'll be more bees because there'll be more apiaries, there'll be more people that are producing bees to keep up with the demand of the honey. So the bees aren't harmed by taking the honey, and a lot of the honey is left for them and their hive. So they're just taking the excess. So in my view, it's actually good to have honey because you're supporting, it's like supply and demand, right? So more people are having honey, there'll be more bees that are being bred. So that's my argument. But true vegans, in my experience and the ones I've spoken to, don't have honey.
Well, there's two main groups of reasons why people go vegan. One of them is that cruelty to animals, and the other one is people do it for health reasons.
Yes.
And that's sort of our area of, it's like, is it healthy or not? And we've got some interesting data here, but we have to define a vegan diet. And I've got a paper here on vegan diets.
Yes.
And it tells you, and I'm going to hold this up to the camera, one of them's red, one of them's green, as you can see. And it says one vegan diet is terrible for your health and one vegan diet is good for your health. So it's like we have to define what a vegan diet is, because vegan diets can be terrible or they can be potentially good.
Like any diet, it can be healthy. You can do it in a healthy way. You can do it in a very unhealthy way.
Look, if I'm a carnivore and I just have bacon 3 meals a day, and
dogs and all the processed meats.
Hot dogs and all that stuff, which we're going to talk about a bit later. But an unhealthy vegan diet, people go, hang on, what's that? Well, firstly, you have a lot of refined carbohydrates because a can of Coke is vegan.
Yes.
Right? So is McDonald's chips. Although JFK is going to cook them in tallow soon.
They are. They're all cooked in tallow. So anyone that eats the deep fried chips, they're actually cooked in beef tallow. So be careful with that.
But margarine on white bread, vegan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you could have artificial sweeteners, artificial colours.
Yeah.
They're all now people don't often relate that to a vegan diet, but technically that is a vegan diet.
Well, anything that you're not having, and I have come across an industry that I used to work in. Well, I worked in this industry, but a job that I had years and years ago in Melbourne was a part of Melbourne that had a lot of vegans.
Yes.
I don't like saying vegans because it makes them sound like they're a species. People that are on a vegan diet.
Call them vegans, that's all right. They sneak in with the humans, don't worry. Oh, there we go. There's there's emails about that coming.
I forgot, I've lost my train of thought
now. Good. Yeah. Okay, Melbourne.
Yes, they were very unhealthy. They were very unhealthy. They would eat potato chips and they would eat, fried foods fried and things like that. They wouldn't eat. It wasn't an overly healthy diet for some of them. So you can have very unhealthy plant-based diet, vegan style. So
all that particular diet that I described, and this is published in a paper called Vegetarian and Vegan Diets, Benefits and Drawbacks. And there's a lot of drawbacks or there's a lot of positives, depending on which. So if you're in that group, you have a much higher risk of hyperglycemia, so diabetes basically, hyperinsulinemia, diabetes, dyslipidemia, so problem with your blood lipids, inflammation in the body, hypertension, gut dysbiosis, which leads to an increase in mortality and morbidity. So that's a vegan diet, technically.
Yeah.
Or you can go on to the healthy vegan diets, which are plant-based, loads of vitamins and phytochemicals, plenty of mono and polyunsaturated fatty acids, loads of minerals, and you get the complete opposite, basically. So, and I guess most vegans have a bit of both.
Yeah, that's true.
They
don't. Who's 100% on their diet? We're both omnivores and we eat very healthy, but occasionally might have something that's a little less healthy. So everyone.
Never. I'm perfect.
No, you are perfect, Steve. That's true. Bad.
No, look, you're right. And like today for lunch, I was going to say I was having a vegan lunch, but I had a collagen bar before.
You did.
Which was nice actually. It was but normally I come here and I have apples and fruit and that and nuts and you hoe into them, and so does the cameraman. He loves them, and so that's what I basically eat today is just snack on nuts throughout the day, and that's a very healthy vegan food that I like when we talk about carnivores and that sort of thing. Nuts to me, like those healthy nuts that we eat, the mixed nuts. I don't know what's the problem with them for anybody, but some people might react to them.
Yeah.
And I know you react to some of the nuts.
The high histamine nuts.
Yeah.
I don't eat those. Yeah.
But they're very good for me. So what is a vegan diet is you could have, they've got pictures here. What about cupcakes, donuts, lollies, all sorts of lollies, croissants, these are all vegan foods, chocolate biscuits, and trans fat and tropical oils. I mean, they're all terrible for you.
You look at the processed food aisle and they've got the little vegan icon on there. They're totally horrible processed foods. Just because they're vegan doesn't mean they're healthy. It's the same with gluten-free. There's that stigma of, I have people to say to me who are closer to me that say, well, if it's gluten-free, it must be healthy. Yeah. But no, it just has no gluten. Same with, just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy.
Coca-Cola's gluten-free.
That's right.
I'm picking on Coca-Cola today because that's probably one of the worst I think of.
Yeah.
But that's vegan free. They've got a nice little chart here, figure 2 in this particular paper, which what happens to you if you eat a healthy vegan diet. And there's some really interesting, it's the usual, you don't overeat typically because calories are typically lower on a vegan diet, because there's not you don't have big blocks of cheese and fatty meats that are high in calories. Yeah. Now, is that a problem? Good question. They have high dietary fibres, which is potentially good and potentially not good, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
They're higher in potassium, magnesium, and selenium. Lots of vitamin C's, which are all good. But this is a nice sort of way of flowing through what it does in the body, and it's very, very positive. But again, eating a healthy plant-based diet is tricky. It is really tricky.
And we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite incredible. But let's go through the certain things one by one. Refined sugar, that's vegan.
Yeah, this is interesting. This was just a little bit of a fun facts before we really dive into the ins and outs of the vegan diet and the science. That I found some things that people may not think, people may just assume are vegan that they're actually not. Ooh. So people on vegan diets may be consuming some of these things that may not know. They were very random. So refined sugar. Yeah. So some sugar's processed with bone char to whiten it.
Oh, right. Yeah, bleach it.
Bone from an animal.
Yeah.
So so if you're not looking for organic, unrefined or bone char-free sugars, you might be having like sugar that's got animal bone in it. So that was interesting. Certain beers and wines, which I think people would be aware of. Sometimes there's some that aren't vegan because you see vegan wines now.
Yep.
So there's what they use to filter and clarify the alcohol is either egg whites or isinglass.
Oh, God.
Isinglass from fish bladders.
Yeah, yuck.
Yeah, to filter and clarify the beer and the wine. So therefore you have to look for a vegan wine or beer where they use a different filtering process that's plant-based.
Bladders.
Fish bladders, yeah.
You think, why does a fish have bladder? Why doesn't it just pee it out?
Isinglass is what it's called.
Isinglass. Wow. Okay, well, how do you spot it? How do you get around that?
So you look for vegan certified alcohol.
Okay.
Check, So there's a vegan alcohol directory apparently.
There is. See, I'm a non-drinker.
Well, I'm a non-drinker too.
So I'm very, very naive with this. But what about, I'm going to ask you some weird questions here. What about yeast? Is that vegan? Like, do people, and it depends on the definition.
Well, I guess it depends on the and it depends what sort of yeast it is, if it's alive.
What about if it's Saccharomyces boulardii or something?
That's dead yeast, essentially.
Okay, but is that animal? I eat dead cow. Yeah. I don't eat live cow. I don't eat them alive.
Well, yeah, yeast and like leavening agents and things. It depends. I guess it depends how far you want to go. And some people on plant-based diets or vegans are really to the nth degree that won't touch it because it is. And other people, is it a sentient being? That's the same with oysters.
Can I tell you something?
Some vegans eat oysters.
I learned something the other day. Bundy rum is made with Saccharomyces boulardii. I did the Bundy rum tour.
I've done the Bundy rum too. I didn't remember that.
There's like 3 ingredients. There's this molasses stuff, which we tried.
Yeah, I tried
Beck
that.
and I.
Yeah.
This when we came and see that weekend, and we tried the molasses. It tasted like sweet, gunky cane yuck.
Yeah,
but
I liked it.
Really?
I liked it.
Oh, okay.
I love molasses though.
Oh, do you? You're a bit weird.
Molasses. Yeah.
So you racked up with Saccharomyces boulardii, and you end up with Bundy rum, a few other steps, of course.
So you never know. Maybe if you're really, really super strict, you may not want to do that. But
so I guess the only way you really eat vegan without all this thing is just have boiled white rice and Worcestershire sauce on it.
Yeah, we can't have Worcestershire sauce either, Steve, because
why not?
Anchovies in it.
Oh, jeez.
So that's a funny one. We'll go through this really quickly because people probably know. But chewing gum, sometimes chewing gum.
No.
Stearic acid or glycerin derived from animal fat.
Well, funny, glycerin, we used to make glycerin when I was a chemist in the 80s. It was my first job, full-time job as a chemist. We used to make glycerin and soap because they were the byproducts. We made soap at Cussons and glycerin was the side product, and it comes from animal intestines and caustic soda.
There you go.
2 of the worst ingredients. Like caustic soda, get in your eye, you go blind. Put on your skin, it burns.
Wow, they use it in a soap.
And then you strip the cow of all its fats and all of its intestines get boiled up, and you end up with this tallow or animal fat. And you back caustic soda and you get a saponification soap making process, and you get soap, and the byproduct is glycerine. A lot of people think glycerine is vegan. Some of it might be.
Can get
vegan, but check it out.
So that's interesting. Orange juice or fortified things with vitamin D.
Oh, vitamin D.
Because vitamin D is not vegan.
It's made from wool or something.
Yeah, sheep's wool, sheep's lanolin.
Jeez.
So you can get vegan vitamin Ds now, but for most fortified foods like orange juices and things are fortified. So if you're drinking a fortified orange juice, you're probably having lanolin from sheep's wool.
Nice. Yum.
Bagels and breads, some are made with L-cysteine, which is made from animal feathers or hair.
Yep. Our amino acids here at ATP Science are vegan.
Yes, that's right.
We went through a process for that. But anyway, but ours are weird. We're health nuts.
Yeah. Potato chips, but if you don't, I guess people are more aware of this, the coating, so the flavouring. So they use a lot of milk powder, whey, animal-based enzymes and things. So things like cheddar, sour cream, barbecue, they're most likely animal-derived flavours.
Of course they are.
Which people might not think about. Soups and ramens because they have sometimes have the broth.
Yep.
People like that. This is weird. I don't know if people might write in if this is still a thing that they use, but candy, red or shiny, on the lollies, coatings, the red lollies may contain carmine, which is crushed cochineal insects.
Yeah, cockroach.
I can't believe that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. And the shiny coating use a shellac from lac bugs. I don't know if this is still they use this.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Tim Tams have cockroach in it.
Do they?
Yeah. That's why I eat it.
Oh my
No.
God.
No, but cockroach colouring is,
Cochineal. So cochineal is that used to be the red colour in everything. Cochineal. They still have cochineal now. You can get it. That's from insects.
It's from cockroaches.
Cochineal.
Have you ever heard of
cochineal
some-
insects, cockroaches.
Yeah, you know, la cucaracha. That's cockroach. That's the song about the dancing cockroach. In my limited Spanish.
Is cochineal a cockroach?
Yeah, it's a type of cockroach. Oh, it's a red one.
Oh man. Okay, so I've just grossed out a heap of people. So anything with E120 labelled or confectioner's glaze, you're eating cockroaches.
All right. So what else?
That's just freaked out a heap of people. It freaked out me actually. Tim Tams. I did not realise Tim Tams. And you can get gluten-free Tim Tams. So I have had a couple of gluten-free Tim Tams, and occasionally in the past, only a couple.
I buy them from a 4-wheel-drive club because they just love them there. They're not super.
I love Tim Tams, and when I saw the gluten-free ones, I do love. I'm not 100% perfect.
Yes,
I will have every now and then. Yeah, well,
You're perfect,
I had one or two, and they were good. But no, not if they got cockroach in them.
It's not all the trans fats, not all the crappy refined carbohydrates.
All that's fine. It's just a cockroach.
It's just cockroach.
Yeah,
because that colouring is probably good for you if it's cockroach. You know, it's just a natural colour. It's better than red dye number 3, which is
that's true. Anyway.
What are FD&C red dye number 6 that's found in fibre supplements on shelves that are very popular at chemists now.
Oh, yes.
I won't say the name of it, but geez, that's a shocker.
Yeah, that's not good.
Okay, what else has it got?
So frosted cereals, so some of them are fortified, as you said, and then some use they're going to use the non-vegan sugars, probably the cheap sugars. So so I thought that was kind of interesting, just a few little fun facts to begin with. But the cockroach ones freaked me out now as well. Yeah. I didn't realise cochineal insects were cockroaches.
La cucaracha.
So anyway, now we'll move on to the actual serious science-based stuff.
All right, some science-based
stuff. So I guess we will look at the health benefits of a vegan diet and possibly the possible negatives of a vegan diet and sort of go through the science in there. So should we start with the benefits, Steve?
Benefits,
I know you've got papers galore there.
I've got papers galore. Can I just say benefits in adults?
Yes, that's probably.
Because I've got a separate one on children.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, that's a whole nother topic, isn't it?
All right. So this is the benefits, and this is from Vegan Diet Nutritional Components, Implementation, Effects on Adult Humans. So what they do is when people typically eat vegan diets, they typically have lower rates of disease. And you might think, oh, well, it's all over. Why wouldn't you just eat vegan? Yeah. Because compared to what? Now, we were talking about this at our desk before.
This is my big bugbear because, and we did go on a rant in the carnivore diet.
I'll go on a rant again.
We're going to go on another rant because it comes back to the science and it comes back to the biases in science.
Yes.
And there are some very well-known plant-based advocates that are out there that talk all about the science. Yes, valid science, but they're not looking at the positives for the opposite of what they're saying, because there's always positives there, health benefits. But what are they comparing these diets to when they're doing these studies? So yes, plant-based diets win out because lower cardiovascular risk, lower all the things. But what diet are they comparing it to? A healthy, balanced omnivore diet, or a diet that's processed? They're eating a lot of processed meats, refined foods. That's what. That I haven't seen studies to show, where they're actually looking at two really well-balanced diets, comparing them.
Absolutely, and this is what they've done there. Now I'm going to say vegan can reduce the risk of chronic disease such as type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and certain types of cancer, blah, blah, blah. And this was published in Vegan Diet Nutritional Components, Implementation and Effects on Adult Health. So you might read that and go, oh, well, the debate's over. But again, what these people were comparing them against in this particular study was the standard American diet, the SAD diet, which is a terrible diet. It's like you can debate the worst one, but this is down there, the American diet, the standard American. Because you've got to remember, most vegans also, what they found in this study was that vegans tend to smoke less and exercise more.
That's right, because they're more
health conscious
of their health.
Yeah. So that was very interesting. And a couple of other things I found in the paper was that they looked at LDL concentrations, and you get lower levels of LDL, which is that cholesterol we've talked about. But what I looked at the data, that you lower this LDL, but the healthy levels of LDL now are much higher than what recommendations according to this paper said, because we did a podcast on cholesterol, so it's number something, 400 something. And it might be at the bottom of the screen now if you're watching at home. But we did, it wasn't that long ago. And what they've done with cholesterol now is, in the old days, they based on what they call consensus paper, like the European consensus paper, and they get nerds together around there, and you look at the conflict of interest. They all work for or take money from companies that have statins. Now, I am not a big conspiracy theorist, right? Not a big one.
No.
Not like some other people in this room. But we had a chat before the podcast, Nic, about all sorts of wide-ranging things. But that is a direct and if I work for a drug company, let's say I work for a drug company A that made statin B, okay, whatever statin is. Now, statins are a huge market, like multi-billion-dollar. If I was setting the recommendations, I would want everyone's cholesterol, because I'm biased, below 4.
That's right.
Which is way too low for health. But that's what the current recommendations are, because I can make yours below 4 just by giving you this tablet.
That's right.
And that's what, and a lot of money is behind that, and you can see the conflict of interests are written in these things, and it's incredible. And what they found is that the LDL levels and even cholesterol levels the low levels that they're recommending is actually increases the rate of death.
Yeah.
And some people go, oh, LDL's associated with heart disease. Well, what else is associated with heart disease? That's not, association doesn't mean causation in the scientific principles. So this is really interesting that okay, reduce LDL from what to what? And, if it goes too low, you're going to increase your rate of death.
Well, that's right. And what are hormones made from? Cholesterol. So, and I also see clients in clinic who are on vegan diets that have high cholesterol.
Yep.
They're very healthy. They're living a healthy lifestyle, but there are underlying imbalances. So that's, so there's always another side to the story.
Of course.
They might have inflammation, high stress, they have hormone, and we'll talk about the negatives, hormonal stuff. But it just because you're on a plant-based diet doesn't mean you're going to have lower cholesterol. And as we know, we said lower cholesterol is not always better.
No.
And a lot of the clients I see that have low cholesterol on plant-based diets have hormonal issues because you need cholesterol to produce hormones. We have cholesterol for a reason. So there's so many arguments around this. Is why I get so angry because people, but look at the science and
look at the science.
You're looking at one part of science, you're not looking at the whole picture.
I'm going to, how we're doing the benefits of the diet now. I'm going to tell you that it reduces Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Too. And then I'm going to say you in the cons it increases Alzheimer's because I'm going to look at two different papers.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
But according to the studies, a vegan diet reduces Alzheimer's disease. You might go, well, gee whiz. And this says nutrition plays an increasing role in maintaining optimal brain function. Studies have shown a protective against a vegan diet against Alzheimer's. Again, compared to what? The Western diet, because that's the study was done in America.
That's right.
So when people go off the American diet, go into a vegan diet, and remember, vegans typically exercise more, which is protective, smoke less, drink less.
Generally, yes.
They typically have a higher lifestyle. And a lot of them use the Seventh-day Adventists because they're vegans.
Ah, yes.
And the Seventh-day Adventists are a religious group.
They would have a lot of cereal, wouldn't they, Steve?
They do have a lot of cereal, yes.
They own a brand.
Vegans.
Do they still own that brand?
Oh, Kellogg's.
Sanitarium,
yes. And you know what? It's like because they have a very healthy lifestyle. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they look after their bodies. So there's that they call confounding variables.
Yes.
So, we're talking about the vegan diet. We're not talking about the vegan lifestyle here.
That's right.
Because the vegan lifestyle, pretty good.
Yes.
Don't smoke, don't drink, exercise. No one's going to argue against those things.
No, at all.
And they are also associated with a vegan diet, so you get the benefits from that. But whatever you get the benefits, it shows that it protects it. But again, in the cons, I'm going to show you that it increases Alzheimer's. And people are going to go, oh, read the studies. Well, I'm reading different ones.
That's right, different studies.
And the way you match them up, and I'll match them up later for you, but that's a benefit of vegan diet. One of the reasons why it reduces heart disease, not via cholesterol, it's because you typically eat less L-carnitine and less choline. And that makes TMAO, which is trimethylamino oxidase, and that's a toxin for the heart, allegedly. So possibly. So that's another reason why it helps your cardiovascular system.
Yes, and then and this is the positives of the vegan diet, but because it's such there's so many biases around these diets that, I see people on carnivore diets and even omnivore diets that have high TMAO levels. And I see others who are on a carnivore diet or an omnivore diet that don't have high TMAO levels.
Yeah.
So, it comes back to individuality, doesn't it?
There was a Harvard study of a guy who ate 72 eggs a week and his cholesterol slightly went down.
Slightly went down.
Down.
Yeah.
So the amount of cholesterol you eat too is not related to your levels.
No.
So because your body, you remember your liver makes it.
That's right.
It makes
Our body makes it itself, so it can't be bad.
And it makes it,
itself.
The liver makes LDL cholesterol too, by the way, not the HDL, not the good one.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
So that's some of the pros. The other pro I found is that it's typically cheaper.
Cheaper?
Yeah.
Okay.
To eat a vegan diet.
Yeah,
and I went, I suppose that's a pro.
I mean, meat can be very expensive, particularly if you're eating good quality meat.
So that was another pro I found. And also the micronutrients, vitamin C levels are higher.
Yeah. Now, again, is that's not compared to somebody on, say, a Mediterranean style diet that's taking a lot of plant foods that are getting all of these nutrients again. So is it higher than someone on a, say, Mediterranean style diet, these nutrient
They only measured it against the shit American diet.
That's right.
And, in the Australian diet, it's just bad. I'm picking on the Americans here. But
the sad standard Australian or standard American diets.
Because they very commonly have wheat bix and milk for breakfast in Australia, or cereal and milk, and then you have a sandwich for lunch. It's all processed. Then you might have your rice and crap for dinner. It's just processed crap.
Yeah.
And so, as I said, the vegan diet can be super healthy or super unhealthy. So it depends. So, but that was some of the pros that I found, and also they typically tend to be lighter.
Lighter.
Less weight. Way less.
Right. Then less body fat.
Now, no, just lighter.
Oh, lighter.
Lighter.
Oh.
Not less body
explain.
fat. Oh, because there's something else to make.
Oh, sarcopenia.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to say lighter is a pro, and then I'm going to completely contradict myself and say lighter is a con.
Yes.
So isn't that weird?
Yes.
So pretty interesting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there were some pros anyway.
Okay, so shall we talk about some cons?
Sure.
Potential cons. I'm not going to say these are cons that are going to happen if you're on a vegan diet, but they're potential cons.
Yeah.
And these, again, as we always talk about some of these potential cons, come back to the gut microbiome. Like everything, everything we talk about, the state of your gut microbiome will also dictate whether these are a problem for you or not. So, again, the studies aren't looking at everyone's gut microbiome to say, well, this is the reason. But so some of the potential cons that I saw are potential oxalate issues.
Okay, oxalates, what are they?
So oxalates are they're organic acids, and you find them in plants, sometimes in animals, in humans. They're made by yeasts and things in our body as well. So you've got soluble oxalates, which bind with water, and then you've got insoluble oxalates, which bind with minerals like calcium and magnesium, which is important when you remember those. So when we're taking a lot of plant foods, and I think a lot of times when I have seen some people on vegan diets stick to the same foods all the time. They kind of just stick with the same things. They eat the same things. So they might be eating a big bowl of spinach or sautéed spinach and sweet potatoes and almonds and all these really healthy things in higher amounts because they're getting their calories purely from the plants, not from any animal-based products. So they might be taking in a lot more oxalates than, say, somebody who's got more of an omnivore style diet, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there's some fruits, nuts and seeds, legumes, so soybeans, grains, so buckwheat, figs, rhubarb, spinach, as I said, sweet potatoes and things like that. So that can all be quite high in oxalates, which is generally okay if you don't have issues with particular low levels of a bacteria in your gut, so called Oxalobacter formigenes. So that helps to break down oxalates.
Yep.
So if you have low levels of that bacteria in your gut and you're taking in a lot of oxalates, you're less likely to be able to break them down.
Yep.
Therefore, you can end up with kidney stones, can be one. You can end up with nutrient deficiencies. Yeah. So your calcium, magnesiums.
Yep.
A zinc is another one that oxalates can bind to.
Right.
So if you have thyroid issues and you have high oxalates.
Funny you mentioned zinc, but go on.
Okay. Yes, there's the thing about zinc and plant-based. I've got one on that as well.
Oh, mine's not that exciting, but yeah, yours sounds more exciting than mine.
Yeah. So So you could end up with thyroid condition because your zinc is being bound up, your magnesium's being bound up. If you have high levels of these oxalates and you can't break them down, this isn't everybody. But this can be a potential issue for some people if they have gut microbial issues, or they have the genetic propensity towards high oxalates, which can be a problem as well. So, so that's one thing that I found that could be a bit of a factor.
And that's huge because oxalates can, cause kidney stones too.
Definitely. They can be quite serious. Yeah. And that binding to the essential minerals and things like that. So that's one thing that possibly could be a factor for some people is high oxalates.
Do you want me to give you one?
Soy every day and all the things.
All right, I'll give you one.
Yeah.
Basically, this was a major study in clinical nutrition, published Clinical Nutrition 2021, called The Intake and Adequacy of a Vegan Diet, Systemic Review of the Evidence, so big evidence. And what they found was that regarding macronutrients, vegan diets are lower in protein intake compared with all other dietary types. So lower in protein and the essential amino acids. Mm-hmm. Veganism is also associated with low levels of B2, B3, B12, vitamin D, iodine, zinc, calcium, potassium, and selenium. And what they found was B12 is significantly low. It doesn't even make 1 microgram when the RDA, just the little RDA is 2.4. It doesn't even get to a half.
Wow.
So it's about 120 or 20%, so 1/5 of the amount of B12 you need per day, because B12 is typically only found in animal products. So they also, there was related to other deficiencies, but they weren't significant. So depending on the vegan, there was some that had iron and some that had other stuff. But they're the main ones that are thing. But B12 seems to be the worst one. So
B12 is bad, and I'll talk about why that could be really bad. For some people. So
low in selenium, zinc and iodine, guess what's going to happen? Thyroid's going to be screwed.
Yeah.
Because you can't make thyroid. Because for those playing along home, T3 and T4, have you heard those for thyroid things? The 4 is the number of iodines.
Yes.
So if you haven't got iodine in your diet, and people go, but I'll have kelp. Okay, great. You're having kelp, but 90% of vegans don't eat kelp.
Yeah.
It's shit food. It's
I eat seaweeds. I love
seaweeds. But you're a weirdo.
Yeah, I'm a weirdo. That's
you're
true.
a weirdo. Kelp. But not many people eat kelp.
Yeah. So if you have low T4, it can be an indication that you have low iodine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you have low T4, you've got less to convert to T3, which is the active form. Therefore, you can end up having symptoms of hypothyroidism.
Yeah.
So really interesting. So
that's one of the deficiencies of vegan.
Yeah. So I will go back. I did forget to say, if you are having a lot of high oxalate foods, if you pair them with calcium, it will actually help to bind up the oxalates. And you can also cook some of the oxalates out. So boiling them can actually help to reduce the oxalate levels as well. Okay. And the other thing is rotate. So if you're having a lot of spinach, maybe have rocket instead of spinach one day and another leafy another day, and rotate them. So it's not a matter of removing your oxalates. And please don't everybody go out and take up your oxalates, because you'll have oxalate dumping and it'll be the worst thing you've ever experienced.
Very sick, yeah.
So don't do that. But just rotate your foods. It can be,
Gee, from spinach to bloody rocket sounds disgusting anyway.
So I eat a lot of rocket.
Do you?
Yeah, I had a high oxalates at one point, but I was eating a lot of spinach and a lot of those high oxalate foods. So
As
I now
said,
rotate.
you are a weirdo. And you say calcium, but they're low in calcium, these people, because they don't have any dairy foods.
Yeah, so you have to do a calcium supplement. So if you have a calcium supplement with the high oxalate foods, it helps to bind up some of the oxalates. If you're somebody that has issues with oxalates, you can do tests, organic acid tests, to see what your oxalate levels are.
I mean, it's tricky, but possible. Do you want to know some other problems with the diet?
Yes.
Anxiety and depression.
No.
Yeah, I know. This is again, for those, this is an article published in Nutrition Reviews. It's called Veganism and Vegetarianism Compared with Mental Health and Cognitive Outcomes System Review. Vegan or vegetarian diets related to a higher risk of depression and lower anxiety scores, but no difference. Now, a lower anxiety score doesn't mean you got less anxiety. It just means you got more anxiety. So basically, subgroup analysis, anxiety showed a higher risk of anxiety, mainly particularly under the age of 26 for some reason. I don't know where they get that from. So basically this is a big study, and the odds ratios for these were around just over 2. So you get like double the chance of anxiety. It's associated with, doesn't mean it's caused by, because you could be a vegan because you're anxious about the cows.
Yeah.
Or the fish.
Yeah.
You're anxious about them.
Yeah.
So, but this is an associate. This is where people say, just look at the studies. It's like, yeah, okay, you get anxious with it or depressed. It's like, no, but I'm not depressed. It's like, but it's associated with. So association doesn't mean causation.
Can I give you a reason why that might be more prevalent?
Sure.
Low B12, Steve?
Yeah, B12.
Impacting methylation.
Oh, yeah.
Because what does methylation do? It helps to detoxify our neurotransmitters.
Exactly.
So if we're getting recirculation, so that's another negative that and this is something that I see probably relatively commonly, actually, low B12. So methylation issues I see quite more often. No, I'm not going to say more often, but very often in people on plant-based diets. So methylation, we've talked about before, it's a really important function in our body. It helps to DNA repair, gene expression, detoxification, neurotransmitter production, and detoxification. So a B12 is needed for methylation, also folates and things like that as well, zincs, iron, quite a few different minerals and vitamins are needed for that.
Yep.
So B12 is essential for converting homocysteine into methionine.
Yep.
So if we have high homocysteine, it can cause cardiovascular issues.
And dementias.
Yeah, exactly. It can impact your detoxification of your neurotransmitters. So we can have excess neurotransmitter, recirculation causing anxiety.
Yes.
And hormonal issues. So estrogen dominant type symptoms and things because you're not detoxifying your hormones, particularly estrogens and things like that. So I see that more often than not in a lot of people on plant-based diets. Breast cancers and things I've seen in people on plant-based diets, and that is because they have methylation issues.
Yeah.
So that's probably quite a significant negative. So you have to really make sure that you are getting all your nutrients needed for healthy methylation, really important. So B12 is probably one of the biggest ones because it's one that can be quite deficient.
Yeah.
It can be quite deficient.
And B12 is tricky to get a vegan diet, if not impossible.
Well, it's almost impossible. You get a little bit in seaweeds. But, a little bit, and it's not really measured, so you don't really know how much you're going to get. So,
can I tell you another problem with a vegan diet?
Yes.
They also suffer from orthorexia, which is a fixation of healthy conscious eating behaviours. So stressing about food.
That's interesting.
Now we want to. It's funny about this because that too much stress about food is going to cause mental health issues and problems. But if you're not stressed, you're not worried about what you eat. You're going to eat Maccas twice a day, and you're going to get sick.
Well, that's true.
So you're going to have a little bit of worry.
Yeah.
But that was a worth one. So that was interesting. And with another one is that they have lower bone mineral densities on average.
Actually, that's interesting because I don't really eat calcium. I don't advocate for dairy food. I eat calcium. I don't eat dairy products, but you can get a lot of calcium from plants.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
But again, this is the average vegan.
Okay.
The average vegan is shorter than omnivores.
Really? Shorter?
Yeah.
Wonder how that would happen because what if that'd have to be someone who's vegan from birth, from when they're children to grow, right?
Yeah, and that's why I'm getting onto the children thing, the problem.
Okay.
They have substantially lower vitamin D, which is bad for their bones. And vegans have lower bone mineral density. I said that, so bad for your bones as well. So and this is in a paper called The Impact of a Vegan Diet on Many Aspects of Health, the Overlooked Side of Veganism. That was a paper published 2023. So there's all these associations. That doesn't mean you're going to get it, no, but there's a general sort of I think now children and adolescents very problematic with vegan diets. And in children it can cause, and I'll quote this paper over here, irreversible neurological damage due to B12 deficiency among unsupplemented children. So if you're a child and you're a vegan, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you are, B12, you have to be on B12.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to touch that one.
No, it's too tricky. It's too tricky.
I don't even talk about that.
So that was a pretty bad one there. Also, the protein malnourished, especially the essential aminos, because, too many amino acids, are bad, but not enough is bad too. That's why they're called essential amino acids. They also found other deficiencies in EPA and DHA.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, do you know any vegan sources of those? Like in the supplements?
Not specifically.
Yeah.
No. No.
Because EPA and DHA, eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, are made from essential acids in the body, omega-3s, and they're made in humans. But these, when you're relying on just making them and not eating them, you end up becoming quite low in them. So that's a problematic. So very, very interesting, isn't it? Another negative is, believe it or not, you've got a higher risk of dementia.
Okay. So before you had a lower risk of dementia, now you've got a higher risk of dementia.
There's going to be emails, but you said, and I said, I'm going to contradict myself later because there is a great paper, and I love the title, and I'm going to read it like Shakespeare. To meet or not to meet? I'm not joking. It says to meet or not to meet. Yeah, MEAT, processed meat and dementia risk. What they found was when you eat a lot of meats, you get dementia, all right? And they went, oh, shit, that's bad. So stop eating meat. But then what they call stratified the data. In other words, they looked at the individual meats and hot dogs and all that crap processed shit ham and that spams and small, which a lot of people eat, you've got a much higher rate of dementia. But if you eat chicken, you reduce your risk of dementia. Right. Red meat, you slightly reduce your risk of dementia. So does meat cause dementia? Yes and no.
Yes. Yeah.
If you eat red meat and chicken, you'll reduce dementia. If you eat hot dogs and spams and all those sort of things and corn meats and all that, you will increase the risk of dementia. So again, looking at the data.
That's right.
So this is called to meet or not to meet, the processed meat and risk of dementia. So it's very interesting, isn't it?
It is.
So I found that very interesting. So
Okay.
So,
I've got one for you, Steve.
Oh, far away.
Another potential negative.
Potential negative, yep.
So, and we'll probably talk about the protein, how important protein is and how it's you can get a lot of protein from a plant-based diet, but you've got to work at it harder. But there are some ready proteins that can be great to add into the diet to make sure you're getting your – but the problem that I see is a lot of them are highly processed. So you're coming back to that, natural versus processed.
Yeah.
So for one, tofu, it's a soybean, and I'm going to talk about soy because there's an interesting thing with soy, so that not only a lot of these proteins processed, but they can be quite hard to digest and assimilate the actual amino acids from them, and I'll talk about why, particularly with soy, it can be a problem. So tofu it contains goitrogens.
Goitrogens are things that trap iodine, which screw your thyroid basically for those plant.
Back to the thyroid. Obviously, you'd have to eat quite a lot of it. So soy a couple of times a day, every day.
Yep.
Tofu particularly. So it contains goitrogenic substances. So there's that. Tempeh is better because the fermentation. So tempeh is fermented soy, basically. So the fermentation process actually reduces the goitrogen. So that's actually better to have. But because it's fermented, it can impact if you have a particular microbial environment. So you have high histamine-producing bacteria, you may not go so well with tempeh because of the histamines in it. So there's that. TVP, so textured vegetable protein, highly processed. Yeah. And they use solvents to separate the soy fat from the soy protein. So there's a solvent called hexane.
Hexane is a terrible chemical.
Yeah.
We used to use that in chemistry. It's a 6-carbon alkane, which is
Is it in paint stripper?
Yep.
Yeah.
Use it in paint stripper. It's like octane is petrol. And methane is a gas, but butane is a cigarette lighter. That's 4 carbons.
Yeah.
Pentane is a fuel is 5, and hexane is a fuel at 6. Oh my god!
So they can use hexane to separate the soy fat from the soy protein. Obviously, the end product they say that they're only trace amounts and they're quite healthy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think wouldn't want to have trace amounts anyway.
Hexane.
And look, full disclosure, I was a vegan for 5 years, a long time ago. I used to eat TVP till the cows came home.
Well, that explains a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does explain a lot.
Look, you know how you said before you eat Tim Tams and those sort of things?
No. I don't eat Tim Tams.
You
I
used
have
to.
eaten a couple of
Yeah.
the gluten-free ones when they came out. A couple. I don't eat them regularly at all.
That's funny.
Steve
eh?
making me out to
Well, I eat one of my naughties is that I love soy sausages.
Oh, me too.
Oh, you like those?
I
things?
love, because when I was a vegan,
Yeah.
and this would have been 20 years ago that I was a vegan, I used to love those soy sausages. Love them.
Beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah, really good.
Beck hates them.
Does she?
I love them.
Ah.
I could eat them every night. They're
yeah.
crispy and when you slightly overcook them, they're beautiful. And I have them very occasionally because they're nice, you know.
Yeah.
And no, they're not.
They're
great
highly
for me.
processed. They're not great for you, but they taste great.
Super processed.
Yeah. Wheat gluten is another one. So it's to make seitan. Have you heard of seitan? So that's the protein. So that's made from wheat gluten. So it's, again, highly processed, and it contains a gluten. So if you have a gluten sensitivity, it can be inflammatory. Mycoprotein to make corn, Quorn.
Oh,
heard of that
right.
one?
Yes, heard of it.
So that one is it's a fungus.
Nice.
So so there's a fairly significant process that goes through to actually end up making corn. It's heat treated to reduce the amount of ribonucleic acid.
Yep.
It's put in a centrifuge to separate the solids from the
spins it,
liquid.
yep.
Yeah, so it spins it. Then you have the flavorings because it's pretty bland on its own. So you have to add, all your flavorings to it. And then it's made into a paste that's heated and cooled and cut and then frozen to make into meal-like shapes, meat-like shapes. So quite processed. So, if you and you could turn around and say, well, what about protein powders if you're talking proteins? Yeah, 100%. Protein powders are processed, but they're supplementary. So if somebody's on an omnivore style diet and they're having meats, they're not having a processed. Well, some people might have a processed shake every meal instead of a meal, but for the most part, they're supplementary. You're not sort of relying on them for your main protein
we
source.
sell powders and we're saying that they're processed because they are processed.
Yeah.
Ours have got no artificial things in them and that, but the fact is that they're processed.
That's right. So that's something and people say, yeah, but so what? Yeah, well, so what? But if you are really concerned about your health and you want to reduce your processed foods, which a lot of people on plant-based diets think, yeah, but I'm not eating processed foods. If you're relying on these proteins, then they are processed, and some of them have, say goitrogens, as I said, and the soy. So soy can be a problem for some people. The problem being, in the Western culture, we don't have the microbiome that actually helps us to digest the soy effectively. Asian cultures do because they've been eating soy for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Sure.
So they actually have the enzymes and the microbes in the gut that actually help break down soy really well.
Okay.
In the Western culture, not so much. So some people maybe have an issue breaking down the soy effectively anyway. And if you can't break it down properly, you can't extract the amino acids and then obviously gain the benefits from that. So if you're having soy all the time, possibly you could start to develop these bacteria that actually help to break down the microbes. But so there's that. And then there's the question of the phytoestrogens in soy, Steve.
Oh, my God.
Are we having too much phytoestrogens? Well, what I will say about that is phytoestrogens are very weak. They're very weak form of
Weakish,
estrogen.
about thousandths the strength of
so they don't,
estradiol.
They don't have a great deal of effect. And if you are producing your own estrogen, so if you're a cycling female, the receptors are blocked with your estrogen anyway, so the phytoestrogens actually don't have any real impact. But if you are non-cycling, so menopausal, then those receptors are empty, so the phytoestrogens can then lock into the estrogen receptors, and you can get a slight benefit from the phytoestrogens. Sure. So for that argument, for men, I don't know. Again, it's a very weak form of estrogen, so I don't even think it would be that impactful at all. So that sort of argument with the estrogens in the soys, the plant-based proteins, I don't think is a very strong one.
No, I don't worry about it. No. Can I give you some more bad news?
Yes.
You know how with vegan diets you don't have eggs?
Yes.
Well, eggs is one of the most foods that it's full of proteins and all that crap. They're great for your eyes, which we're doing a podcast this week. You're going to see how good it is. But it's also good for your brain.
Yes.
Eggs are very good for your brain. And in fact, a 2024 study titled The Association of Egg Intake with Alzheimer's Dementia Risk. It's a famous study called the Rush Memory and Aging Project, right? So that's the paper there. they basically found that if you eat eggs more than 2 a week, now everyone eats 2. I eat 4 a day, but let's say you have 2 a week.
Yeah.
That reduces your risk of Alzheimer's by half.
Wow. By
Half.
Just 2 eggs a week.
2 eggs a week.
Wow.
Has a ratio of 0.53. So 0.50 is half. So 0.53 is, I'm rounding off a bit there. So decreased risk of dementia. I mean, can you believe that? You know, even if you from deceased patients, they cut again. A 0.51 has a ratio. So absolutely incredible. You know, so if you're not having eggs, even a couple of weeks, then you're sort of effectively doubling your risk of dementia.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, eggs are great for everything. We've talked about them before. The conclusion say these findings suggest that frequent egg consumption is associated with lower risk of Alzheimer's disease and dementia. It's both of them. And the association with Alzheimer's dementia is partially mediated through dietary choline, which is high in animal foods.
Yes, it is.
Now, I've just picked on choline because it increases TMAO, and now I'm telling you how great it is for your brain.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, I know.
If you just believe the studies. Yep. Which one?
Exactly.
So I mean, look, that if you're not eating eggs, if you're not eating eggs and you're an omnivore, then get them in your diet somehow.
Eggs are the best.
They're really good for you. I mean, we could do a podcast just on eggs.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of eggs.
I've got something for you that's can be depleted in a vegan diet, Steve.
What is it?
Taurine.
Oh, taurine, a consistently essential amino acid, sulfur-based. Yeah,
consistently essential. So it's needed for gallbladder health, gut health, liver health, all of that sort of thing, brain health.
Yep.
You need it for magnesium absorption, and it really can only get it from animal-based
or
things.
Monster energy drinks.
Or Monster energy drinks, that's right. Or you can get it from aminos that may can you get plant-based form
of taurine?
Yeah, okay.
We did.
So you can do that. So if you're not having any amino supplementation, taurine is another one. We've talked about iron, obviously. And look, there's the argument of yes, but there's iron in plant-based foods. Yes, there is. There's heme and there's non-heme iron.
Yeah.
Heme iron, I should have written the percentages. I can't remember. It's like 60 or 70% absorbable.
Yeah.
And non-heme is like 10%.
Yeah, it's very low.
So it's very low absorption.
And do you remember the old thing we have to take vitamin C with iron? You only do that when it's a non-heme iron.
Yes.
Because basically, I won't bore you with the chemistry, but a heme iron is Fe2+. And non-heme iron, the vegan diet, is Fe3+, and we use the 2+ one. So the way we convert 3+, 2+ is we give it an electron. And if you give it an electron, which is a negative, it goes from 3+ to 2+, like it takes one off. But you give it an electron, and vitamin C is an electron donor because it's an antioxidant, and oxidation is the loss of an electron. So vitamin C becomes oxidized and gives the electron to Fe3+, turns it to Fe2+, so it can be absorbed better. But that's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally pain in the ass. So if you're taking an Fe2+, you don't need vitamin C to absorb it.
You don't.
And everyone says, but the iron doesn't take vitamin C if you're on a carnivore diet. You don't need it.
You don't need it.
For iron absorption.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
yes, and I guess the other one is protein.
Protein. Well,
and yes, you can get great protein from plant-based diets, and some people don't have any issue with it at all, and some people really struggle. Some people you need to make sure that you're getting either complete proteins from combining foods, or from the complete plant-based sources, which are tofu, quinoa is complete, buckwheat is complete, like tempeh and tofu both are complete proteins. So, but if you can't have soy or you can't break it down and absorb the amino acids from it because it's not as bioavailable, we didn't print off this study. That there was a study that done. I'll have to find the link and can put it in. It was a study done on the 70+-year-olds about the bioavailability of protein, muscle protein synthesis. So they did a study. We will get the link. They put people on an omnivore diet and then they put them on a plant-based diet because they wanted to see the protein muscle synthesis. So what's the difference? Is there any difference between animal proteins and plant proteins? There was no difference.
No.
But the cohort was 70+.
Yeah,
they were all 70. The participants were all 70+. So my argument is, in that age group, there is a very high propensity towards reduced digestive capacity, reduced stomach acid, all of that sort of thing. So if they're starting out with a low ball of not being able to digest the animal proteins, then it's going to show very similar no matter with the plant-based or the animal-based anyway. So that, to me, is a very flawed study, which we'll get the study, because they've got compromised digestion anyways for the most part. Some may not, but so there's that can be a factor, and particularly if your microbiome comes into play, which we talk about all the time, if you have imbalances, and a lot of people that I see, I can only talk about who I see in clinic that go on a plant-based diet or a vegan diet is because they've had health issues or gut issues. I can't break down I can't eat the meats, I can't eat the fats and the animal fats, and things make me feel sick. So they're changing to a plant-based diet where they may have a compromised gut microbiome anyway. Yeah. So do they have the ability to then break down these plant-based proteins to absorb these amino acids, which are a little bit less bioavailable in my view, unless you have really strong digestion and really good microbes to actually break them down effectively. So that could be a factor for some people, not all. Some people.
Yep, I've got a paper here where they talk about protein in vegan diets, and they found that in the context of a vegan diet, the fulfillment of protein requirements is ensured through the complementary consumption of legumes, cereals, and allowing individuals to contain a comprehensive array of essential amino. So they say you've got a protein combined. How many vegans do that? It's very tricky. It's like another layer of like
you have to think.
All your essential amino acids are in eggs, just going back to eggs and meat and all that. They're all in there because they're literally an animal. So this one you have to have this with that and all that sort of stuff. And it's tricky. It's not impossible. It's just
not impossible. And the old story you had to combine for each meal is not really, it's not, they're showing that that's really not what you need to do anymore. Yeah. So long as you're having throughout the day, you could have beans for breakfast and rice for lunch, you're still going to get that amino acid profile. It doesn't have to be in one meal. And there are the complete plant-based proteins that you could have as well. But it is more challenging and you have to think about it. And if you aren't going to be doing any processed foods like your processed proteins, plant-based proteins, then you are going to have to look at combining. So, a legume and a grain or a nut and a seed. So you have to think about it more. So that can be more challenging. And the amount of plant-based diets that I see that are not balanced is quite high.
Oh, it's quite scary. And because people go vegan because of not for health reasons, but they go because they don't like killing animals, which is fine.
Which is why I went vegan, to be honest. I didn't want to eat the animals. But I didn't. It didn't go well for me, vegan diet. I lost a lot of muscle. Yeah. Because I'd finished competing by that stage. I lost a lot of muscle.
You finished then.
And look, there are some people who do vegan amazing and there are vegan bodybuilders. Yeah. And they're amazing. And they just seem to go really well with plant-based and still maintain muscle mass and put on muscle. I couldn't. But I didn't want to eat the animals. So there's that. And honestly, if I had a choice, I would be vegan, but it doesn't go well for me. And I want to maintain muscle mass. And for me, my individual makeup, it doesn't go as well for me. Yeah. But I prefer it. I don't love eating meat. And I try to stick to very ethical meats, and things like that. So animals that are treated really ethically. Good quality meats as well, grass fed, all of that sort of thing, and same with the chicken, organic, free range, and really ethically treated. It's a hard one because I don't like the thought of killing animals, so it is a hard one, and a lot of people will do it for that reason. So I completely, agree with them there that it's
absolutely
would be a good way to
go.
Can
I give you one more negative? I know we're running out of time, but and it's just this is in a medical study. Is they call it social pressure and social stigma of a vegan diet because everyone picks on you.
Well, that's true.
Just because they do. I mean, I don't care, but some people go, "Oh, you're a vegan. Oh, geez,
They do. They are the butt of a lot of people's jokes.
Of course they are, and it's funny, and we should joke about them. And no, I'm joking. But the fact is that there is, plus let's say you go out for dinner and you say I take Nic on a date and I go, well, you want a big steak? And you go, oh, that's gross, terrible. And then I want a steak. I go, oh, I shouldn't eat it because you're a vegan and I want to, chat you up, whatever. It's like there's problems.
There is problems because years ago when I was a vegan and I would date occasionally.
Oh, yeah.
if I said I was a vegan, the guy was like, sorry, no.
Check, I'm out of here.
out.
Really?
Yeah. And
I'm
that's
joking.
100% true. 100% true that they would not, no, I can't deal with someone that doesn't eat meat. That's 100% true. This was a long time ago.
Like this was mentioned in this paper, but I was joking about it.
No, that can be a thing. I don't know if it is now. This was a long time ago when I dated for a long time. But that was definitely a thing. So, yes, but for ethical reasons, 100% I'm all on board for the vegan diets. For health reasons, again, the argument is for some people it works amazingly well and other people not so well. There are positives and negatives, just like there are positives and negatives for the carnivore diet, as we said. We're not for or against this. We just look at the benefits and the negatives. And I think like most other diets that are a bit more on the extreme side, so, keto, carnivore, vegan, there are going to be negatives and they're going to be positives. Yeah. And people may do really well on it and people may not do well on it. So
and it's not just a single entity, it's a range of foods.
Yeah.
But okay, let's say that someone came to you and said, Nic, I'm a vegan. Like how would you mitigate or work against the risks that we've talked about? What would you do to because you can't say just eat a steak. No, they're vegans, okay?
I have had people think I shouldn't laugh. They have said to me, I'm a vegan, I only eat chicken and bacon. Sorry.
Oh, really?
They have said that.
That's a vegan?
And they've actually thought they were a vegan. I had to explain that wasn't veganism. So
I've got a funny story just before you start. We sell bovine collagen. Bovine means cow. Someone said this is the best vegan protein.
Oh, no.
I'm not joking. It was
they would have died when they've heard.
Well, I was asked to respond to it. How do you answer that?
They're actually eating.
Yeah, I just played a straight bat and said, it is a great protein, and
it's not
but
vegan.
It's not vegan.
Oh my goodness, they
It's
probably
literally
would have died.
bovine.
Oh, those poor people.
Yeah, I know. I just thought I'd mention that.
You can get. Well, no, you can't get. You can get fish collagen. Marine collagen.
Marine collagen? Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So how would I?
Yeah, sorry, I'll go back to the question.
I would ask to look at their diet first to see if it's relatively balanced. I would always do blood testing. And I think if you're on a plant-based diet, it's a good idea to do blood testing once a year just to check for your iron levels, for your zinc levels, for your B12, those types of things, homocysteine levels, check your methylation. And then, if that's all fine, then great. If it's not, then you would fill in the gaps with supplementation for, say, your B12. B12 would be the biggest one I would see. And as we said, methylation is probably the biggest factor that I see that becomes a problem for people on plant-based diets.
It's B12 needed, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I have seen some cancers and things, people on plant-based diets, breast cancers and things, and I think it comes from
methylation,
looking at from my opinion, coming from methylation because they're not detoxifying their estrogens and things like that and other issues. So that'd be the biggest one, but just making sure that all these nutrients that you can't get from the diet are in good levels and that they're having a balanced diet, they're getting the proteins in there. That's probably the next biggest challenge I see is people are really can be quite low in protein.
Yeah.
People don't understand how sometimes they can't sort of get their protein levels right. And then, obviously if people are coming to see me in clinic, they have an issue. So they have a gut issue or they have some sort of health issue. And a lot of times it can be a gut issue. So for me to sit there and say, well, have soy, have tempeh, have this, have that, they can't, the gut can't handle that.
No.
So you'd have to look at gut microbial balance. Same with the carnivore diet. If you're on a carnivore diet, you check your gut microbiome.
Yes.
I do with those.
Yes.
So that'd be the sort of things I do. But some people thrive on a plant-based diet and some people don't, like any diet. Yeah. So I think the point is that we're saying is that no diet is the be-all and end-all.
No.
There's problems with every diet. Again, I still stand by the Mediterranean diet is probably one of the most balanced.
Very well researched. Yeah, you're right. You can't really go around
But I'm sure there's probably negatives with that as well. So, at the end of the day, would I would love to be in a plant-based diet, but it doesn't really work so well for me. It doesn't. But I don't see anything really significantly wrong with it so long as you're getting all these essential nutrients that you could be missing out through the food.
Yep.
As long as your methylation is okay, as long as your gut microbiome is healthy and can manage the amount of plant products that are coming in. And I think.
I think my add to that, not adding my nuts, those sort of things.
Yeah.
because they're super high in minerals and protein and essential fatty acids that are deficient, and calciums and magnesiums are rich in those, like mixed nuts that I've got.
Yeah, nut seeds. Sesame seeds are really high in calcium. So
They are.
it's calcium sources. Yeah, they can be good.
Really good. And everything else I think we've covered. Nic, that's amazing. I mean, again, controversial a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, people get, again, like the carnivore diet, people get so emotional and passionate about the diet. And, you know, it's like, well, plant-based, and people get very religious about it. And I think that's why there's a lot of jokes about people on vegans diets, because they're some, not all, can be very like it's a religion to them. And it's like there is no other way. And I will put my hand up and say when I was a vegan, I was like that.
Oh, were you?
Yes. I was. And then I saw the light. Sorry, I saw the light. You
saw the light.
And I'm an omnivore now. But yeah, you know, I don't see any issue with it if you wanted to be vegan. But yes, my point is, like with the carnivore diet, you have to look at all the science. So as I said, there's very high-profile people who are plant-based that look at one lot of science and say, but this is the healthier diet.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of shown that maybe it's not necessarily and the healthiest diet. It can be for someone, but a carnivore, as we said with the carnivore diet, can be for others. So there's so many variables that come into play. You can't just look at one study and say, okay, well, it lowers cholesterol and it lowers, you know, Alzheimer's, because we've shown in other studies that it doesn't. So
and it increases it. But also it also comes back to where everyone's different. It may work for you.
Right.
And you inflicting your science on people is difficult, because if I know, look, I've got these studies showing this thing. I mean, we did a podcast on the carnivore diet a few weeks ago now, and there was a study there that had horrendous bowel diseases, and it pretty much almost cured them all. So how bad can meat be bad for your colon if it improves your colon? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It
comes back to the quality of the diet, and I think that's probably the crux of it. You know, if you're eating a well-balanced omnivore diet, for instance, and you're getting some plants in there, you're getting your meats, and they're good quality meats, they're clean, they're, you know, the ethical, organic, all of that sort of thing, and you're not having, you know, loads of meat, then fine. And if you're on the carnivore diet, then it's good if it's good quality and you're getting the right balances, you're not having, you know, you're having a bit of fat in there, a bit of protein, then again, the quality is what it comes down to, and it comes down to the microbiome, as we talked about, and the person's individual genetic makeup and everything that goes along with it. So you can't just be, and the person I'm thinking about is quite high profile, and he thrives on a plant-based diet, and he looks amazing, and he's quite muscular, and he trains, and
he's good looking. He's really muscly. I know the guy. He's great.
But for him, it works really well. But someone else, it may not. So I think we're just trying to highlight that there is no one best diet, you know, and people that want to argue the point, well, and they throw the science at you. They don't throw the science at you that shows the opposite that can be true as well. They don't look at that. And that's where I think that there is a big problem in the health field. The people have so many biases, and they will only show you one lot of science. They don't look at the whole thing, whereas we try to look at the positives in the science literature and the negatives. There's always going to be two sides to the same coin.
Absolutely, Nic. It's one man's food is another man's poison. I've said it a billion times. Well, Nic, that's about all we've got time for, but this is great. We'll be back next week. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you guys.
Bye.
Steve.
Yes.
Time for Ask the Naturopath /FAQs / Ask the Naturopath.
Well, you're a naturopath. I'm a naturopath. Nicole Brown, naturopathy. Yeah, let's go.
That's right. All right, first one for you, Steve.
Yeah.
With the HIFU, a cosmetologist can buy the machine and perform this as a service? That's a question. So the HIFU we did a podcast on this a while ago.
High frequency ultrasound.
That's right.
Frequency ultrasound. Yeah.
Yes, for weight loss. And
for fat loss. It destroys fat cells, high frequencies.
Yeah. So the question is, can a cosmetologist buy the machine and perform this as a service?
Yep.
Who can do the high fem?
Yep.
And could the high fem be used on the double chin for the tightening results?
All right. Well,
the questions.
I'll go back to the last question first. Yep. Can you use high fem for the double chin? You wouldn't. You'd use the HIFU for that, because that destroys fat cells there.
Yeah.
And remember, it's only about an inch square, this thing. So you put a HIFU treatment there, it'll take no time whatsoever. It'll destroy the fat cells in your chin, so you won't have and that's one of the uses for it. The second question was, can can a cosmetologist use these machines? Yes, you can. They're not laser, they're high-frequency ultrasound, so ultrasounds are relatively safe. I mean, it's not like a laser that can burn you or cut you or anything like that. So, yes, and beauty salons can do it. I got some of the there's one near me, and I just looked at the prices there and use them. And they're not a doctor or anything like that. So, yes, a cosmetologist can use them, and they can use the HiFem as well.
Perfect.
So it's a good one, pretty easy one.
Catherine,
okay, this is one word, Catherine Chirunbin 4740.
Yes.
It's like I made that up, but I didn't.
You didn't.
This is kind of related to this podcast with an add-on question. How do you address mouth ulcers? I've recently dropped my calories to try and shred some weight, and I've developed some mouth ulcers in the back of my throat. Not so much mouth ulcers. The dentist said I'm run down potentially, plus I had blood done recently and magnesium iron are, quote, within the range. So just wondering what else I can do to help the run-down induced mouth ulcers. There you go, Nic. This is a tricky one.
So this one, are they mouth ulcers or are they throat ulcers? Because it can be different.
Yeah, very much so.
Different causes. So if they're, I have some mouth ulcers at the back of my throat.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming she can see them.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they would.
Dentists can see them.
I don't know if I consider them mouth ulcers as such.
I know what you mean.
There is a few different reasons. Yes, being run down in a roundabout way because your immune system's a little bit compromised.
Yep.
So therefore you can develop mouth ulcers. B vitamin deficiencies can create mouth ulcers as well. If it's more throat, back of the throat there, I'd be looking at possibility of any gut stuff going on.
Sure.
And also reflux.
Right.
Can be another one as well. So silent reflux. So if you're maybe getting a little bit of sinus or you have to clear your throat, you're getting that sort of phlegmy sort of throat, that can maybe indicate, or dry cough can indicate that there's a bit of possibly some reflux or dysbiosis. So that could be something coming from the gut, and it could even be sort of a candida or something like that as well that could possibly be causing more in the throat rather than. So if I'm thinking mouth ulcers, I'm thinking sort of around the gums, the lips, that sort of thing. If it's more to the back of the throat, I'd be maybe looking a little bit further afield than immunity. If it's only happened since you've dropped your calories, perhaps you've dropped your calories a little bit too low. Therefore, you're creating a little bit of a stressor on the body, which will then create inflammation, activate the immune response, and then possibly that could be a driver.
Sure.
But without knowing exactly where they are, because it sort of says mouth ulcers and at the back of the throat, to me they'd be two different things. So, but rundown relates to the immune system.
Yeah,
but if it's only happened since you've dropped your calories, I'd be looking at maybe around that, depending if you've dropped your calories but are eating similar foods, or if you change your diet, maybe there is something going in the microbiome. But silent reflux could also be
absolutely good point, Nic. Well, that's great. All right. Well, thanks for your question. Keep them firing in. Keep sending them in.
Keep sending them in.
Ask a naturopath. Send them in. Thank you.
Cool.